successive Nigerian governments have launched various renewals or recovery plans aimed at boosting or reforming the economy. The Buhari administration in 2017 introduced the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, ERGP, on the heels of Nigeria's slump into recession for the first time in 25 years and a sharp fall in oil prices. While the ERGP, which ran from 2017 to 2020, was expected to restore growth, create jobs, guarantee improved human capital through access to basic quality education, and as well as education for all. It was also supposed to significantly increase investment in infrastructure through robust public-private partnership. In June 2020, a new economic plan, the Nigeria Economic Sustainability Plan, was approved by the Federal Executive Council and was developed by the Economic Sustainability Committee chaired by Vice President Osinbajo. So with the current state of the economy, where the GDP is not growing as expected, unemployment rate is on the increase, and of course, considering the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, let's look at the economic responses of this government so far, particularly in the context of the impact of the ERGP from 2017 to 2020 and the NESP. My guest is Laolu Akonde. He is the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media in the Office of the Vice President. Mr. Akonde, welcome to Politics Today.
Thank you so very much.
Let's begin from the ERGP now, which ran from 2017 to 2020. It was supposed to be a roadmap for Nigeria's economic development. We all know how that turned out. But most importantly, what are the main developmental outcomes of the ERGP?
Well, thank you very much. Essentially, the goal and the objective of the Buhari administration is in the area of ensuring that the average Nigerian has an increasing access into the resources of the country. And that was essentially what ERGP was about, to ensure that we were spending Nigerian resources on the common man. And that was the basis for the introduction of the biggest social investment program in the continent, where we budgeted for, I believe, for the first 4 years, 500 billion naira, to the development of the social investment program. Essentially to say that, look, it was time for us to begin to develop economic policies, social-economic policies that addressed the needs of the common man. So we came up with the Empower program, which, as you remember, we engaged 500,000 otherwise unemployed graduates whether from universities, colleges of education, and polytechnics. We also had the conditional cash transfer, where we were giving 5,000 naira monthly to over 1 million very vulnerable, very poor Nigerians, the first time in the history of the country. And we also had the trader money, market money, farmer money, where we tried to target, people in the very lowest cadre of the economic level. So for instance, we had trader money where we give people 5,000, 10,000, and when they return the money, they get additional 15, I think up to like 100,000. We also had market money that gave people as much as 100,000, 200,000 to ensure that the average Nigerian at the lowest level of the rung, is empowered. And we have seen tremendous impact in the life of those that were touched.
But when
so the point I'm trying to make to you is that our focus, our major focus, is how to begin to exert and to expend the resources of the Nigerian nation on those very majority of our people who really need the help.
The developmental outcomes of those projects are very important. Some have questioned the impact. Some have said that its implementation was very poor. And to a great extent, the transparency was not clearly visible as far as the ERGP or the social investment programs are concerned. And then most importantly, the actual releases from the budgeted amounts were a big problem. So the outcomes were not as expected.
Well, so it would be inaccurate to claim that the program wasn't transparent. As a matter of fact, it's about the most transparent program. I'm talking about the social investment program, where anybody could go and check, the figures are there. We had commendations locally. We had commendations internationally. A lot of the programs we are winning awards. Even local NGOs, the National Economic Summit Group, Nigerian Economic Summit Group, they endorsed the program. Action Network endorsed the program. Agencies of the United Nations endorsed the program. African Banker of the Year Award, which is a continental thing, endorsed the program. And if you look, for instance, at how we picked the 500,000 Empower people, it was a situation where anybody could get in. You didn't have to know anybody. And so you have 500,000 young people in this country, and a lot of them have been coming out. If you just need to go to the social media. Anytime we were traveling, anytime we go to any part of this country, they came to the airport.
But there are people who have also spoken about the N-Power. There were times where there were moments when there were protests against the N-Power scheme, where some persons have said that they've not received their monies as promised by government. And then I recall one time that the House of Representatives Committee on Humanitarian Affairs met on this issue, and the data was not available.
The data
is there an available data?
The data is always available, and that's the point I was making to you. That part of what we did was to also engage people in the civil society organizations, and I mentioned to you Action Aide. I mentioned to you the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. These are independent agencies that have access to the data, and they have looked at the data. And very clearly, even when you go to the social media or listen to the stories of the Nigerians that were impacted, it's always a story of excitement, of appreciation for the program of the president. And so this is not a program that you can question its credibility at all. And it is not we just saying it. It is all the independent people that have made the point over and again.
Before we go into the NESP and the revenue generation plan of federal government, the ERGP had plans to do a lot of things. One of them was to increase the GDP of the country, increase unemployment rates, and those things were not achieved within the time span of the program.
Well, the truth of the matter is that we had a situation in the country where our resources, the revenues were dwindling. So when we came in, if you remember, in 2015, the first time the president took office, there were over 20 states that were not even paying salaries. So the first thing that the president had to do was to come up with all kinds of bailouts. Bailouts for the states, bailouts for the local government, and we ensured that we fixed all those problems, these were the problems that were caused. One, of course, Nigeria was making a lot of money, but let's forget about that. What we then did was to ensure that people's salary were paid. We gave all kinds of bailouts, all kinds of financial credit lines to the state government, whether it be from directly from the budget or, facilities through the CBN to make sure that all the states had enough resources to pay salaries. And all of this was happening, very important point, all of this was happening at a time when the fortunes, the revenues of this country was actually dwindling. It got to a point that oil was selling for less than $20. So you will see that what we have done actually is to do more, even though we were earning less. And of course, you talked about the budget releases for the social investment program, where the plan of the president was to spend 500 billion every year, but because of the dwindling revenues, we are not able to spend as much as we had hoped for. But in the lives of those...
Would that be due to a lack of revenue generation?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that because of the dwindling finances, the dwindling...
So what's the federal government's plan to generate revenue now beyond tax and oil revenue?
Well, those are the big sources. So we're doing. If you look at the budget this year, we're doing quite a bit in trying to ensure that we get more people into the taxation grip. So that we don't have to increase taxes, as it were. As a matter of fact, if you look at the Finance Act very well, what again we have done in line with the philosophy of the president to make sure that the average man is taken care of, is that we have actually cut taxes. So for instance, now if you are earning minimum wage, you don't pay any income tax, absolutely, completely nothing. If you have a business that is making less than 10 million naira, you don't pay any income tax. So we have tried to take care of, you know, of the regular people, of the majority of our people. But of course, you know, there are still the big farms, big companies that don't.
So it's basically
pay as
tax.
much.
It's basically tax for the government, because I know the president talked about diversification, which was supposed to be a source of revenue. What are the plans in that regard?
Well, diversification is ongoing, and if you look at the question of diversification, the diversification has always been in place. The question is how much foreign earnings that is coming from diversification. You know, our economy is fairly diversified. If you look at any of the GDP, you will see that there's a lot going on in agriculture, there's a lot going on in telecommunications, there's a lot going on in financial technology and services. You know, so the economy is diversified essentially. The problem is how we can earn, you know, the dollar, you know, the foreign earnings from this diversification. And I know that, for instance, the National Export Promotion Council is coming out with a big injection into that area that we encourage more of our products to be exported.
Let me just come in here before we go on break. The president's speech, he talked about revamping the economy through the National Economic Diversification Agenda, and that's part of the NESP. Yeah. Well, the question would have to be, what are the details of the NESP that, to an extent, would achieve that and achieve the president's purpose of lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty?
Okay, thank you very much. So take
quickly, please.
Yeah, take the solar, what we call the Niger solar plan, the solar power Niger. You know, we are planning to install 5 million solar installations. You know, that will touch about 25 million Nigerians. Okay, so this is going to involve a lot of manufacturing, a lot of assembling of the solar component. It's going to involve a lot of hiring people. It's going to people that we install it, people that will maintain it, people that will work in the area of maintenance. And so we're going to do about 250,000 new jobs only in that area.
All right,
But that's just one. You know, I hope I get the time to talk about the rest.
Sadly, we're out of time. Mr. Laulu Akonde, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media in the Office of the Vice President. Thank you so much for coming on Politics today.
Thank you.